Rain had been falling steadily for 3 days, turning the city streets into rivers of gray water that carried with it the dreams and disappointments of another harsh winter. Sarah pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders as she sat on the cold metal bench at the bus stop, watching the endless stream of people hurrying past with umbrellas and purpose. At 22, she had learned that most people looked right through her, as if homelessness was contagious, something that could be caught by making eye contact. The cardboard sign beside her had grown soggy and illegible, the black marker running like tears down its surface. Anything helps. God bless. She'd written those words dozens of times on dozens of signs, each one eventually succumbing to weather or wear. Her stomach growled, reminding her that the half-eaten sandwich she'd found behind the bakery yesterday was a distant memory now. Sarah shifted on the bench, trying to find a position where the broken slats wouldn't dig into her back. The bus shelter provided minimal protection from the elements, but it was better than nothing. She'd spent enough nights in doorways and under bridges to appreciate even this small mercy. Her backpack, containing everything she owned in the world, sat between her feet like a loyal dog. The sound of small footsteps splashing through puddles caught her attention. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, was walking slowly down the sidewalk, her bright red rain boots making deliberate in every puddle she encountered. She wore a yellow raincoat with a hood that was too big for her small frame, and she carried a stuffed elephant that had seen better days. What struck Sarah immediately was that the child was alone. In this part of the city, that was unusual and concerning. She watched as the little girl approached the bus stop, her dark eyes taking in everything with the kind of careful observation that children develop when they've learned. The world isn't always safe. Are you waiting for the bus? The little girl asked, her voice small but clear despite the rain. Sarah looked around, expecting to see a parent or guardian nearby, but the sidewalk was empty, except for the usual rush of commuters who paid no attention to anyone else. Not really, Sarah replied gently. I'm just ... sitting here. Are you lost, sweetheart? The little girl shook her head, water dripping from the edges of her oversized hood. I'm Emma. I was looking for someone. She paused, studying Sarah's face with an intensity that was both endearing and heartbreaking. You look sad. I guess I am a little sad, Sarah admitted, surprised by the child's directness. What's your elephant's name? Emma looked down at the worn stuffed animal in her arms. This is Mr. Peanuts. He's sad too. She took a step closer to the bench. Are you hungry? The question caught Sarah off guard. In all her months on the streets, no one had asked her that so directly, certainly not a child. Yes, I am hungry. Without hesitation, Emma reached into her raincoat pocket and pulled out a small paper bag. I have goldfish crackers. Mommy always packed them for me. She held out the bag, her small hand steady despite the rain. Sarah's throat tightened at the past tense, but she accepted the offering gratefully. Thank you, Emma, that's very kind of you. She opened the bag and took a few crackers, savoring the simple salt and cheese flavor. These are good. Did you say your mommy packed them? Emma nodded solemnly. She's not here anymore. She went to heaven 3 weeks ago. The matter-of-fact way she delivered this information was more heartbreaking than if she had cried. I've been staying with different people, but they don't really want me. Mrs. Peterson said, I asked too many questions. And Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez already have 4 kids and can't handle another one. Sarah felt her heart break for this little girl, who spoke about rejection and loss with such composure. I'm so sorry about your mommy, Emma. Thank you, Emma said politely, then surprised Sarah by climbing up onto the bench beside her. What's your name? I'm Sarah. That's a pretty name. Emma swung her legs, her red boots not quite reaching the ground. Sarah, do you have a place to sleep? Not really, Sarah answered honestly. She'd learned that children often saw through adult lies anyway, and Emma seemed particularly perceptive. Emma was quiet for a moment, considering this information. Then she looked up at Sarah with eyes that held too much wisdom for her age. I have an idea. You need a home, and I need a mommy. Maybe we could help each other. The simplicity of the statement took Sarah's breath away. Here was this little girl, who had every reason to be bitter and afraid, offering to share what little she had with a complete stranger. Emma, honey, it's not that simple. There are rules and laws, but what if we just tried? Emma interrupted. Just for tonight, I'm supposed to stay with Mrs. Chen, but she smells like cats and she doesn't like it when I talk. And you look nice. Mr. Peanuts thinks so too. She held up the stuffed elephant as if to confirm this assessment. Sarah looked down at this small, brave girl and felt something shift inside her chest. For months, she had focused only on survival, on getting through each day. But sitting here with Emma, she remembered what it felt like to be needed, to have someone depend on her. Before she'd lost her job and then her apartment, before the series of unfortunate events that had led her to the streets, she had been studying elementary education. She had dreamed of working with children, of making a difference in their lives. Are you supposed to meet Mrs. Chen? Sarah asked carefully. At the community center on 5th Street at 6 o'clock. But I don't want to go there. Emma leaned against Sarah's arm, a gesture of trust that made Sarah's eyes water. I want to stay with you. Sarah checked her watch on old digital one that her father had given her years ago, one of the few possessions she'd managed to keep. It was already 5:30. Emma, we need to get you to Mrs. Chen. She'll be worried about you. No, she won't, Emma said matter-of-factly. She told the social worker lady that watching kids is just how she makes extra money. She doesn't really care about us. The honesty in Emma's voice cut deep. Sarah had seen enough of the world to know that Emma was probably right. The system was overburdened, and too many children fell through the cracks. But what could she, a homeless woman with no resources, possibly offer? Sarah, Emma said softly, I prayed last night that I would find someone who would love me like Mommy did. And then, I found you. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She looked at this little girl, really looked at her, hand saw past the brave facade to the scared, lonely child underneath. Emma's clothes were clean, but too big, hand-me-downs from well-meaning strangers. Her hair was brushed, but needed a proper cut. Most telling were her eyes, which held the kind of guarded hope that came from too many disappointments. What if I walked with you to meet Mrs. Chen? Sarah suggested, just to make sure you get there safely. Emma's face fell, but she nodded. Reluctantly, okay, but can we walk slowly? They set off down the rain-soaked street, Emma's small hand finding its way into Sarah's larger one. The child chattered as they walked, telling Sarah about her mother, who had worked 2 jobs to support them, about the tiny apartment they'd shared with its leaky ceiling and creaky floors, about the books they'd read together every night before bed. Mommy said that home isn't a place, it's who you're with, Emma said, as they paused at a crosswalk. She said that as long as we had each other, we'd always be home. Sarah squeezed Emma's hand gently. Your mommy sounds like she was very wise. She was. She taught me lots of things, like how to make grilled cheese without burning it, and how to braid hair, and how to be brave even when you're scared. Emma looked up at Sarah. Are you brave, Sarah? The question made Sarah pause. Was she brave? She'd been thinking of herself as a failure, someone who had let life defeat her. But maybe surviving on the streets for months took a different kind of courage. Maybe just getting up each morning and facing another day required bravery. I'm trying to be, Sarah answered honestly. They arrived at the community center a few minutes after 6. Through the glass doors, Sarah could see a tired-looking woman in her 60s sitting on a plastic chair, checking her phone repeatedly. Mrs. Chen, presumably. That's her, Emma confirmed, her grip tightening on Sarah's hand. Sarah knelt down, to Emma's level, rain dripping from both of their hoods. I know this is hard, sweetheart, but Mrs. Chen is here to take care of you, and she doesn't take care of me, Emma interrupted. She just watches TV and tells me to be quiet. And her house smells funny, and there's no food except cereal. Sarah's heart ached. She thought about her own childhood, about parents who had loved her despite their flaws, about always having enough food and a warm bed. This little girl deserves so much better. What if, ... double quotes, Sarah began, then stopped herself. What was she thinking? She was homeless, broke, with no way to provide for a child. But looking into Emma's hopeful eyes, she found herself continuing. What if I talked to Mrs. Chen? Maybe I could ... help out. Spend some time with you. Emma's face lit up. Really? You would do that? Sarah wasn't sure what she was agreeing to, but she found herself nodding. They walked into the community center, together, their wet shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. Mrs. Chen looked up from her phone with obvious relief. There you are, Emma. I was beginning to think you weren't coming. Her eyes shifted to Sarah, taking in her worn clothes and the backpack, and you are. I'm Sarah. Emma and I met at the B.